We're counting down the 8 most brutal bull riding deaths ever recorded, where every entry was a case study in how 2,000 pounds of muscle, failed gear, and a split-second mistake can mean instant tragedy. From equipment failures and catastrophic drags to fatal injuries caused by animal unpredictability, these cases show that no amount of experience can shield riders from the chaos of the arena. Which fate stands as the most horrifying? Let us begin with number 8. 22 years old and a local favorite on the amateur circuit, he entered the ring at the Jasper County Fairgrounds in Texas with a reputation for clean technique and relentless drive. His helmet, a 6-year-old model, showed its age, with a sun-faded shell and a chin strap with stitching frayed nearly 40% from ultraviolet exposure and sweat. Friends had noticed him fiddling with the strap before the ride, but he shrugged it off. The bull that night was a 1,700-pound brindle named Whiskey Shot, known for violent head snaps, clocked by judges at rotational velocities up to 260 degrees per second. As the gate swung open, the ride started smooth, hips squared and balance tight. But at 3.7 seconds, Whiskey Shot whipped his head back with brutal force, catching the edge of the helmet. The weakened strap gave way instantly. The helmet flew into the dirt. The next moment, his unprotected skull struck the packed arena floor from 8 feet up. The impact caused a massive basilar skull fracture and diffused traumatic brain injury. Paramedics reached him in under 3 minutes, but the damage was irreversible. He was pronounced dead minutes later. The investigation revealed no formal requirement for helmet inspections or timely replacement. Within 6 months, regional rodeo associations enacted mandatory helmet checks and set strict retirement ages for protective gear. A $12 chin strap was now recognized as the difference between survival and tragedy. He was 36 years old, 15 years on the pro tour, and had a reputation for never backing down from a rank bull. The crowd at the Red River Stampede in Lawton, Oklahoma knew his name. He had made the finals 6 times, and he had survived broken ribs, concussions, and half a dozen close calls. That night, the draw was a 1,850-pound bull called Freightliner, notorious for wide spinning turns and sudden lateral kicks. Arena dirt was packed hard after a week of rain, making footing unpredictable for both bull and rider. As the gate opened, he settled deep into the spin, right hand locked in the braided bull rope, resin caked into the glove for extra grip. Freightliner's left horn swung wide at 4.3 seconds, catching the trailing rope and yanking it tight around the rider's wrist. The quick-release knot, designed to pull free under tension, jammed instead because mud and sweat had swollen the fibers and locked the loop. Thrown off balance, he was pulled from the bull's back, feet first, and dragged across the arena as Freightliner accelerated to nearly 8 miles per hour. For 18 seconds, the rider's body slammed against the ground, hooves striking legs and torso, and his head bounced off the dirt. Bullfighters raced to intervene, but every second added new injuries. Compound fractures in both femurs, a shattered pelvis, a ruptured spleen, and severe blunt force trauma to the head. By the time the rope was cut and the bull driven away, his breathing was shallow and his pulse faint. Paramedics loaded him into the ambulance, but he died en route to the hospital from multi-system trauma and internal bleeding. The post-incident review detailed how traditional rope designs, especially under wet or contaminated conditions, could jam and resist emergency release. In the aftermath, sanctioning bodies fast-tracked new rules mandating quick-release bull ropes with standardized testing and regular maintenance checks. Veteran riders and rookies alike began training with the new systems, and the rider's family established a memorial fund for bullfighter safety education, a legacy born from a preventable tragedy. He was 28 years old. Known for taking risks others would not, he brought an edge to every ride. The crowd at the Sandhills Pro Rodeo in Garden City, Kansas, expected a show when his name was called. The bull ironclad weighed 1,900 pounds and was bred for unpredictable lateral jumps. It had thrown off 3 riders that season. Arena conditions were dry, but the steel fence panels lining the ring had no padding, just chipped paint and cold metal. As the gate swung, he leaned hard into the bull's first violent spin, spurring for extra points. At 5.1 seconds into the ride, Ironclad veered sharply left, pinning the rider's leg between his flank and the unyielding fence. The impact registered at nearly 9,000 newtons, enough to deform the panel and crush bone. Witnesses heard the snap over the crowd's roar. The femoral artery, buried deep in the thigh, was torn open. Blood loss began immediately, pooling in the dirt. Paramedics reached him within 4 minutes, packing the wound and racing the clock. With a severed femoral artery, irreversible shock can set in under 3 minutes. Despite aggressive intervention, his pulse faded. He was pronounced dead in the arena 23 minutes after the collision. The medical examiner's report listed exsanguination from vascular trauma as the cause of death. The investigation found that the fence, built to withstand animal impact, offered no protection for trapped riders. Within a year, new regulations required reinforced padding on all arena panels at sanctioned events, and a memorial scholarship in his name funded safety upgrades at smaller rodeos. His legacy was a reminder that in bull riding, even the infrastructure can turn lethal in a single instant. 19 years old, barely out of high school, he stood behind the chutes at the Twin Rivers Stampede in Meridian, Idaho, clutching his bull rope with hands that trembled more from anticipation than fear. This was his first professional event, a shot earned after years of small-town jackpots and borrowed gear. The bull, a 1,950-pound black and white named Tornado Alley, carried a reputation for unpredictable footwork and short, violent bucks. Arena dirt was freshly raked, but the rookie S boots left nervous tracks as he mounted. The gate swung open at 7:46 p.m. He lasted 4.2 seconds. Tornado Alley's first leap sent the rider up. The next buck threw him forward and off balance. He landed squarely on his back in the bull's path, unable to roll clear. In a heartbeat, both of Tornado Alley's front hooves came down with full force on the rider's chest. A bull's hoof can deliver over 1,200 pounds per square inch, enough force to collapse the rib cage. Witnesses heard the air leave the rider's lungs in a single sharp gasp. The impact caved in his thorax, snapping ribs and causing severe internal damage to both lungs and the heart. Blood collected beneath him as his body stilled. Paramedics sprinted from the arena gate, but pulseless electrical activity had already set in, less than 30 seconds after the crush. There was nothing to be done. The medical examiner's report cited catastrophic blunt force trauma to the chest, bilateral lung punctures, and cardiac laceration. For the crowd, the silence that followed was as jarring as the violence itself. In the months that followed, the Rodeo Association overhauled bullfighter training, mandating advanced rescue drills and stricter positioning protocols to give fallen riders even a sliver of a chance. The rookie S family established a scholarship in his name for young athletes who dreamed of the arena. But no amount of training or gear could erase the reality when a 2,000-pound animal lands squarely. Survival is measured in fractions of a second. He was 43 years old, with a career stretching back to the days before protective vests. He was known across the circuit for his patience and calculated style, a man who had seen every kind of wreck and survived them all. The venue was the High Plains Arena in Amarillo, Texas, in late September, with crowds gathering for what was rumored to be his final season before retirement. He drew Terminator, a 2,050-pound brindle bull with a record of unseating more than 70% of riders and a temperament log that flagged aggression in the shoot and post-ride charges. The air in the arena was tense. Several riders had already warned about Terminator's unpredictability that week. The gate snapped open at 8:12 p.m. He settled deep into the spin, knees tight, free arm steady. At 6.8 seconds, Terminator's hindquarters bucked high, launching the rider backward. He landed flat. The wind knocked from his lungs, but the moment to scramble passed in an instant. Terminator wheeled and drove his right horn into the rider's abdomen with a force measured later at over 1,200 pounds. The horn entered just below the rib cage, tracing a 14-inch wound path that lacerated the liver and tore through the upper pole of the left kidney. Witnesses described the sound as a dull, wet thud, then a spray of blood as the bull withdrew. Medics reached him in under 2 minutes. Blood pressure dropped rapidly. Consciousness faded before the stretcher cleared the arena. Despite a 28-minute transfer to the trauma center and an emergency laparotomy, the internal hemorrhage was uncontrollable. He was pronounced dead in the operating room. The autopsy detailed massive hemoperitoneum, shredded hepatic tissue, and a horn tract that combined sharp penetration with blunt cavitation, an injury pattern unique to bull gorings. The post-mortem review cited Terminator's documented history of post-fall aggression and recommended immediate removal from competition and stricter screening for bulls with repeated charging behavior. Within months, new regulations required temperament logs for all stock, and limits were set on the number of aggressive incidents before mandatory retirement. At the next season's opener, the arena observed a minute of silence, and a foundation in the rider's name began funding research into penetrating trauma in rodeo sports. The finals at the Prairie Coliseum in Amarillo, Texas, drew a crowd of nearly 10,000 that night. 26 years old, the defending champion was known for his technical precision and calm under pressure, a rider who made the hardest bulls look routine. His record spoke for itself: 3 national titles, over 100 qualified rides, and a reputation for walking away from wrecks that sidelined others. The bull was named Black Sabbath, weighing 1,950 pounds, bred for violent spin and unpredictable reversals. Arena conditions were ideal: dry dirt, clear skies, medical team on standby, every protocol followed. He nodded for the gate at 9:04 p.m. From the first buck, it was a textbook ride. Hips square, free arm high, spurring in rhythm as Black Sabbath twisted left, then right. The 8-second buzzer sounded, and the judges' cards flashed scores in the 90s. He swung his leg over for the dismount, aiming for a clean landing. Instead, his boot caught the bull's flank, sending him tumbling headfirst into the dirt. The initial impact left him dazed. Witnesses later described a brief, stunned pause as he tried to orient himself. The bull, still agitated, spun back and delivered a full-force kick to the rider's head at close range. The hoof struck just above the left ear, compressing the skull and driving rotational force through the brainstem. Paramedics reached him within 90 seconds. Glasgow Coma Scale score on arrival was 13, eyes open but unresponsive to voice. Over the next 22 minutes, his Glasgow Coma Scale score dropped to 3. CT scans at the trauma center revealed a diffuse axonal injury and a contused brainstem, injuries that leave no room for recovery. He was pronounced dead 4 hours after the ride. The medical examiner cited catastrophic traumatic brain injury, with secondary swelling and irreversible loss of brain function. The aftermath rippled through the sport. For the first time, event organizers mandated a minimum of 2 bullfighters stationed ringside for all championship rounds, a direct response to the seconds lost while the lone bullfighter tried to draw the animal away. Concussion protocols were rewritten, requiring mandatory evaluation after any loss of consciousness, no matter how brief. His family established a neuroscience scholarship in his name, and the circuit added a moment of silence before each finals round. Even a perfect ride, it turned out, could end with a single missed step and a second impact that proved fatal. He was 32 years old, a father of 2 from Billings, Montana. He rode to keep medical bills at bay and to keep a promise to his family alive. The event was the Snake River Classic in Idaho Falls on July 14th, an outdoor arena in the late afternoon with heat shimmering off the packed dirt. His draw was a 1,905-pound black bull named Diesel, known for tight spins and sudden stops. Years of experience showed in his calm, measured routine, checking the flank strap, settling deep in the chute, silent beneath the brim of his hat. The crowd watched as the gate opened at 5:21 in the evening, the bull launching into a leftward spin. At 5.6 seconds, Diesel's rear hooves slipped on a patch of hardpan. The bull's massive body pitched sideways, collapsing atop the rider and pinning him beneath the full weight of nearly a ton. The initial impact drove his neck into the ground, compressing the cervical spine. Medical literature described the force from a 1,900-pound bull as exceeding the load thresholds of the human spine by an order of magnitude. The bull's chest and shoulder came down across the rider's head and neck, generating a compressive force that instantly transected the spinal cord at the C2 vertebra. Within 5 seconds, all voluntary movement and the ability to breathe ceased. Witnesses described a sudden stillness. The rider's arms splayed at unnatural angles, his chest motionless. Paramedics reached him in under 2 minutes, but the absence of spontaneous breathing and pulse signaled a non-survivable injury. The medical examiner's report later detailed complete cervical spinal cord transection and asphyxia as the cause of death. The aftermath was somber and contentious. Debate erupted over whether weight limits should be imposed for competition bulls, with some arguing that no protective equipment or medical response could have altered the outcome once a bull's mass exceeded the biomechanical limits of the human neck. Ultimately, no new weight restrictions were enacted, but the incident forced a renewed focus on extraction protocols and rapid airway management for spinal trauma. His family established a memorial scholarship for children of injured rodeo athletes, a small legacy for a man whose last ride ended in a moment beyond anyone's control. April 21st, Amarillo National Finals, Amarillo, Texas. Nearly 10,000 people packed the arena, and 6 million more tuned in across the country. It was the championship round. A new national champion waited at the gate, 26 years old, relentless, chasing records and a promise made to his late father. He had been everywhere that season, on magazine covers and sponsor banners, and he carried a flawless safety record shadowed by the pressure of living up to a legend. The bull iron curtain weighed 2,100 pounds, and it was notorious for a spin velocity topping 270 degrees per second, an unpredictable force bred for chaos. The ride began with the precision of a surgeon. Hips squared, free arm high, spurs in sync as iron curtain twisted left, then snapped right. At 7.4 seconds, the bull's head dropped and then drove upward. The rider pitched forward with his chin striking the bull's skull, his mouthguard shattering. In that split second, iron curtain's horn caught him under the jaw, just behind the mandible. The horn punched through soft tissue, pierced the floor of the mouth, and then drove up through the palate into the base of the skull. It traveled nearly 15 centimeters, lacerating the brainstem and severing vital vessels. For 2 seconds, his body hung limp before the bull shook him free. Blood pooled in the dirt. He never regained consciousness. Paramedics reached him in under 1 minute, but the injury was instantly fatal. Catastrophic brain trauma destroyed the medulla, and all vital functions were lost. The medical examiner described a wound path almost never seen outside of high-speed collisions or industrial disasters: transoral cranial penetration, brainstem avulsion, death in an instant. The broadcast cut away, but millions had already seen the impact. Complaints flooded in, and sponsors pulled out citing the graphic nature of the footage. Legal teams for the family and advocacy groups filed suit against the event organizers and the network, arguing that airing live bull riding without delay or content controls had crossed a line. Industry meetings behind closed doors debated new standards. Within 6 months, networks imposed strict policies, no live close-ups, mandatory delay buffers, and bans on replaying fatal incidents. Event organizers faced new insurance demands and overhauled safety and media protocols. Iron Curtain was retired, not because of blame, but because returning a bull linked to a public death was unthinkable. The rider's family established a neuroscience fund in his name. The Professional Bull Riders Association created an annual award for safety innovation. The footage was never rebroadcast, but it lingered, a stark reminder that even the most skilled, the most prepared, can be undone in a single brutal instant. Across all 8 entries, one truth stands out. In bull riding, risk is engineered into every second. No matter the safety reforms or rider experience, the sport's violence always outpaces control. Equipment, skill, and courage can't defeat unpredictability, only reduce its toll. That's why each fatality leaves a permanent mark, forcing rodeo to confront how much danger it's truly willing to accept. Thanks for watching. Share your thoughts below.